Our second presentation is from Joe Wypych. He is the general manager of the Seattle facility for CMC Biologics. And Joe's presentation, Strategies in Large-Scale Manufacturing, Rapid Flexible Capacity Expansion with Novel Utilization of Unique Single-Use Facility Design. So, thank you very much, and at this point I'd like to introduce Joe.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this forum. I apologize for the long-winded title, but it's not too bad. I'm very excited to be here representing CMC today and present to you this case study. It's a case study, I think, that exemplifies the true meaning of achievement, and this is achievement not only for CMC, but achievement for our customer, and more importantly, and most importantly, achievement for the patients, because they're the ones that are going to benefit the most, and I think that's really why we're all here. So, who is CMC? CMC is a contract development and manufacturing organization. We have just over 500 people now worldwide. We have 3 sites, one in Denmark, Copenhagen, one in Seattle, which came online in 2008, and then another one which we are ramping up this year in Berkeley, California. So just a high-level overview of CMC Biologics, and this is, I promise, my only sales slide of the presentation, but you knew it was coming, so here it is. We've got 15 years of experience developing over 100 molecules. We feel that we are really a leader in implementing manufacturing technologies, and the big part of that you'll see in this presentation as we use single-use. We're commercially approved for global manufacturing, different facilities, global customer portfolio, both large and small companies, and the expansion of capacity and technical flexibility for growth. We really feel that we have an unmatched reputation amongst our customers and our industry consultants. We really do look at making that a priority within the company, that we really focus on the customer, make sure that the customer's needs are met, and that we do everything around the customer. So before I get into the main part of the talk, which is around the 6-pack that we installed in Seattle, let's give a little bit of a background on our use of single-use technology within the company. We feel like we've been pioneers in this segment, and we feel like we've been on the forefront of technology and innovation, especially with single-use technologies, ever since the inception of the company. Back in 2011, we had a challenge that we needed to increase some of the capacity, where we had a 500-liter single-use bioreactor. So in order to match the customer needs, we decided to move into a 2,000-liter single-use bioreactor. A big challenge of this, as many of you know, when you're trying to expand your capacity and increase your capacity, is how to do this without limiting or affecting your existing current manufacturing. So here's just a pictorial of how this looked in Copenhagen. On your top left there, you see what the lobby looked like beforehand, and then the three pictures on the right-hand side show what the lobby looked like afterwards. So you see we put in a glass wall there, put the 2,000-liter reactor behind that wall, and it's really kind of a showcase scenario. And if you're ever in Copenhagen or out in that area, I highly recommend to stop by the facility. It's a beautiful facility. And then you could be like one of those people on the bottom right there, or standing looking through the window to look at the 2,000-liter. One of the things that we found when we implemented this 2,000-liter or installed it was that we were able to do it very quickly. So within 7 months, we were able to change that part of the suite and change that area, get it implemented, and get the engineering run completed. So we had a lot of experience, as I was mentioning, with the 500-liter subs before we installed the 2,000-liter. And before we did, or after we did a quick check on it. As you see on the top left graph, the viable cell densities matched all the 500-liter runs that we had done, and the viability as well had just overlaid with all of the 500 liters that we had done. So now getting into the six-pack in Seattle, and I just wanted to take a quick second here to mention also, this six-pack is one of the reasons why I'm at CMC. I really think that we are, as I said, very innovative and very quick and very fast to meet our customer needs. And this project was a very, very challenging project from the start because we knew we had short timelines and we had a lot to do. And that's what made me come and say, okay, I would definitely want to be part of this. I want to be part of this company and do something really great like this project. So here's kind of the project brief, kind of high level what we were looking at needing to do. So back in May of 2014, we were presented with a challenge by a customer to develop a plan for production of commercial supply that was about to enter phase 3 clinical trials. So we really had two main areas here that we needed to look at. Number one was targeting the capacity requirements based off a 10,000 liter reactor. So now for us in Seattle, that was a pretty big challenge because we only had two 3,000 liter stainless steel reactors at the time, as well as another suite which had two 2,000 liter subs. So that's a big difference. And we didn't have the room, we didn't have the ceiling heights to put in 10,000 liter stainless steel reactors, so we had to come up with some other plans on how to come around and get 10,000 liter capacity. Additionally, the timelines that were required for process characterization, process validation were very short. So we needed to complete these so that our customer could do a BLA submission in Q4 of 2015. So part of the six-pack facility modification, and I'll get to some of the slides in a second that show the layout of the facility, but first of all, we came up with a compressed timeline. We worked backwards from when we knew that the client or the customer wanted to file their BLA, and then worked backwards and when we needed to implement all the steps, and just made targets and said this is when we're going to have to do it by. The conceptual design that we came up with was to install the six-pack, so that's 6 by 2,000 liter single-use bioreactors. We knew that we'd utilize the existing downstream area, so we knew we wouldn't have to add that capacity. We could focus just on the upstream part. We also knew that the way the facility was designed, we had two really kind of unique or individual production areas, and we could just expand the upstream suites from the other area that we had that had the 2,000 liter subs in it. I'm sorry, the 500 liter subs. So we needed to, and then also we needed to install some utilities and a new Wypych system as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things that all of us reach out when when we have a capacity increase, we don't want to affect the current operations that are going on. We had other clients who were in the facility at the time, and we really needed to devise a way to get around that so we didn't have to do any kind of shutdown. They're very minimal shutdown, actually. We knew that using the existing downstream capacity that we currently had, we'd have to go to 24/7 operations, and we'd have to increase our staffing levels by about 50%. So we were going to have to bring about an extra 100 people on board, and we were going to need to do that in 3 to 4 months. So a lot of challenges that I don't go over in this presentation with that is how do you bring that many people on board in a very short period of time, get them trained, and get them ready to start making material. Last thing on here was we also wanted to do some demonstration runs in the 2,000 liter sub to show that we could have, so for this particular product, we are already running them in 3,000 liter stainless steel reactors and then moving them to the subs. So we wanted to make sure that they were comparable. And I think this is another strong suit of CMC is that we can really leverage all the sites in our network, Copenhagen, Seattle, and Berkeley, and leverage the different expertise that we have at the different sites to help out all of our projects. So Copenhagen did this comparison run for us, where the 3,000 liter stainless steel reactors was our data, and then the 2,000 liter single-use bioreactor that they did. And you can see here that for the viable cell density, it overlays almost exactly. And for the titer, it overlays as well. You could actually even argue here that maybe we got a little bit better titer than the stainless steel reactors. So here's the timeline that I was talking about. As you see on the top far left, We first started talking to the client in May of 2014. The initial contract was signed in July of 2014, and we knew beforehand that if this contract were to go through, that we were really going to have to push it. So we started some work ahead of time to make sure that we were already had an idea of how we were going to do the facility. We filed the building permits towards the end of August in 2014, and then began the demolition and construction on November 1st. And you see, as we went through to line 3 there, or bullet 3, we are now within in the C&Q. That's currently ongoing. But we hit our targets for construction. We met everything on time and on budget. So here's a layout of the facility. That's the old layout on the top and the current layout with the changes that we've made on the bottom. On the top, older facility, on the very far left, we've got 2 upstream production suites. Each of those have a 3,000-liter reactor in them. And then the blue area, as you go to the left of that, is the upstream section where we have we have a harvest capture suite, a purification 1 suite, a purification 2 suite, and then a fill suite. As you get more to the left of that, you see the area that's got the red dash marks around it. That was our production our PF1 facility that we had that had the 2,000 or the 500-liter single-use bioreactors in it. And then to the left of that was a seating area. So how we figured this out was, again, how do we minimize the disruption to the facility? So as you move down to the current layout and the scope of work, we figured we could break this into segments, start with the demolition and clean out of the seating area, and then work our way to the right as we got more to the shared areas of the facility where you've got our gowning area. So the new facility, what we did was we added a column packing room, added an expansion suite, and then added a production suite where we have then a harvest capture suite, as well as a new locker room to the very far left, which is the pink area. So here's a blow-up of what those production suites look like. So on the right-hand side is about 190 square meters of space, and you see the 6 2,000-liter single-use bioreactors in that suite. The way we designed it was to do pairs, so that each pair of bioreactors would have a single controller. And then kind of on the middle of the right of that room, you'll see a 2,000-liter bioreactor that's used to seed the other 6 2,000-liter reactors, and then a 500-liter sub as well to seed the 2,000. So those are your N-1 and N-2 reactors. On the left-hand side of that screen is the harvest capture area. So the way we've designed this process was to harvest each of those sets of reactors, the three sets, individually. We could bring them through the wall to the left-hand room and do our clarification and do a TFF step-up well to concentrate it, so that we could use smaller 3,000-liter sums to harvest that material. Then after harvest there, we get pumped back over through a transfer line over to the purification area. On the far left is the very far left is our locker room that we put in a new locker room. We ended up doing a unisex locker room instead of doing a male and a female room, and we just used 4 different changing rooms so that the operators will come in. They enter one of the changing rooms, they put on gowns, scrubs, and then they can enter the facility after that. One of the things we're actually really happy with when we did this modification was that we actually came out of it with a better personnel flow than we did entering it. So as you see, we've maintained unidirectional flow throughout the facility. Everyone enters on the top left. You head towards the bottom of the picture there, along the bottom. You can enter into either the reactor suites there or into either the purification areas down the road. And then you exit from an exit door from each of those areas. We did maintain, as you see on the bottom of the picture, there's some bidirectional flow that we maintained from the glass wash area and the autoclave. So here's a few pictures on what it looked like. So here's when we first started removing the offices and the restrooms, the PFO of our PFO facility. Then we step into getting ready for the next steps. It was amazing to me, like just over a couple of days, on how this was a filled area, and now all of a sudden it's completely empty. So we had to dig up the ground. One of the things we realized is with all the 6-packs coming in, the changes for the chillers for those, the air handlers that we needed to upgrade, we didn't have enough. There was too much weight on the roof, so we had to put in I-beams into the ground about 20 feet down and build a platform up on the roof so we could put everything up there. We also had to redo some of the sanitary lines and slope them a little bit better, because we're going to have a lot more waste, obviously, with 12,000 liters. Not all projects go according to plan. Sometimes you have some pretty serious accidents, and sometimes you can have some minor ones. For this one, we actually had a contractor that when he was, when he's breaking up the ground, he drilled into a live wire, and luckily for him, he was fine. There was a piece of rebar that was running along the wire that absorbed most of the electrical shock, but as you can see, it blew out our switchgear. And if you look in that bottom right picture, that was actually quite an explosion that blew out pretty much that whole area. The great thing is that the contractor, obviously the best thing was that the individual who did it was fine. But the contractors did a great job. They came in right away with some backup generators, got us back online, and recovered all the time that we lost. And here you see continuing the construction, there's those I-beams coming in that I was telling you about. And this is when it starts to get a little bit exciting, because you start to see some of the structures for the walls go in. You start to see the air handler system go in as well. And then we start to get super excited here, because you start to see the finished work get in and the flooring go down. In here, you'll see more pictures on the flooring. One of the things that we really had to look at was the slip resistance on the floors. We had it always seems to be a struggle with flooring, right? I mean, you either have enough grit in it or too much grit in it, where you tear up shoe covers, or you can't clean them properly, or they're too slick and people slip when they get wet. So we did we actually installed a little bit different flooring than we have in the rest of the part of our facility. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any slips. One of the things we did before we did all the rest of the trim, we laid down some of the cardboard cutouts to make sure that the contractors knew exactly where they needed to put all the equipment. And here you see the locker rooms and the bathrooms going in. And here's the 2,000 liters subs entering the facility. This is probably the couple of days where I didn't get much sleep, because I was really worried about any kind of damage to these 2Ks when they were coming in the door. It wouldn't take much for someone to drop them and do that. And the timelines that we had absolutely zero room for failure. And it's interesting, what we don't have on a picture on here, I have a video of it that made me very nervous. Is after you see that little A-frame behind the picture on the bottom left, after we got the first 2K upright, it lifted up that A-frame and it kind of swung around the back of the 2K. Luckily, it didn't hit anything and we were okay, but it was a real close call. Suffice it to say that didn't happen the second time. And here's how the suite looks like when it's finished. So on the top right there, you have the capture area and clarification. You see the skids there for that. And on the bottom left are the reactors. So when we look at the 6-pack that we installed, what are the advantages of that? Obviously, scalability is a huge advantage for us. And what we found is that there's no significant scale changes from 2,000 liter to 12,000 liter, because if you think about it, they're all 2,000 liters. So you're, instead of running just one 2,000 liter, you're running 6 2,000 liters, and it's not a scale dependent process either. So you can have someone come in, run one of them, run 2, 3, 4, however many they want. So lots of flexibility. You don't have to worry about scaling up the process either, because everything stays on that increment of 2,000. Obviously, one of the biggest that everyone looks at when you install disposable facilities is the reduced capex and the installation timelines, because you can really push it. Basically, you're just building empty rooms with utilities and then bringing in the equipment. Less facility downtime, as I mentioned, making sure that you can tie into the current facility very easily and smoothly without any downtime. And cleaning validation, again, obviously, there's not a lot of cleaning validation going on with disposables. And again, the flexible batch volumes where you can pretty much pick and choose your increments. And the great thing about that too is often you get clients they're not sure in the future how much product they're going to need, and even standard companies, they're not sure how much product they're going to need once they launch. So you can start at 12,000 liters, and if you need to scale back, it's very easily scaled back. Additionally, it's very easy to replicate a facility, replicate a six-pack in a different area if you have the room. So just some conclusions on what we've done here. We feel it's an excellent option for flexibility. Obviously, single use isn't always the right choice for all molecules. Sometimes stainless steel is the better choice. And if you're running a product that you're going to do 40 or 50 runs a year and you're going to keep, nothing's going to change, stainless steel is the way to go. But if you want flexibility, you want to be able to change out molecules quickly, bring in different molecules into the room in a quick process. It's a very excellent option. Obviously, the lower investment costs and the shorter implementation time, and now they're currently used in commercial processes. A few years back, I know at least when I first started working with single use, no one wanted to be that first company that went into a commercial process with single use, and now we're already there, so it's a lot easier to do. And again, it can be easily adapted to large-scale manufacturing. So we did it for the 12,000 liter. You could easily go more reactors than that. You could go to 12. You can go to 24,000 liters if you really wanted to. So it's lots of flexibility. And that's it. Any questions?
So thank you, Joe. My question is, what was this 12,000 liter expansion creates a site how big in Seattle? And I've been seeing that you are expanding all of your sites. Can you talk a little bit about your total expansion strategy?
The question is about expansion strategy. So again, we ended up having to hire about 100 people and bring them on board for this project. Our expansion strategy is basically to continue to use this format for any future projects that we have. So, like in Seattle, we have an empty warehouse that's easily converted to another six-pack. Obviously, for that one, we would have to install downstream capacity as well and the full list of utilities. But it's very easy for us to do, very quick for us to do. Additionally, we are installing a six-pack in Copenhagen. We are starting with a three-pack now, and then we're going to be expanding that into a six-pack as well.